That's it, and now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today. Pankaj is a staffing industry veteran and the co founder of Sense, the first candidate engagement platform designed specifically for the staffing industry. Before founding Sense, Pankaj spent 15 years running staffing companies, becoming an expert on candidate experience, recruiter productivity, redeployment, and understanding the day to day problems faced by recruiters. Pankaj used this practitioner's knowledge to create Sense, which can help transform the consultant care paradigm for staffing companies. Thank you so much, Pankaj, for joining us today. And now over to you.
Jasneem, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you, everyone, for making the time to learn a little bit more about automation today. I'm going to go ahead and share a presentation with all of you, and then that's what I will lead you guys through. So give me half a second while I do that. All right. Is everyone able to see my presentation?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, wonderful. So let's get started. So like Tasneem said, my name is Pankaj. I'm one of the founders of Sense. And if you don't know about Sense, I will start by telling you a little bit about the company. We started a little over 5 years ago with a singular mission to build the first ever engagement platform for the staffing industry. We've stayed very true to that mission so far. We currently work with over 400 customers, every single one of which is a staffing company. We also did the heavy lifting right at the beginning to make our product enterprise ready. And that proof is now in the pudding. We work with 6 of the top 10 staffing companies globally. And we also work with 60 of the top 175 staffing firms in the US. We picked this 175 number as defined by SIA, which is Staffing Industry Analysts. They come up with a list every year of the largest staffing firms in the US, companies with over $100 million in revenue. We already work with a third of them. Along this journey, we've raised about $40 million in capital from some of the best investors one can hope to have: Axel Partners, Google Ventures, and Avatar. Now, the entire Sense platform is actually built on 3 different pillars: growth, retention, and automation. Growth is going to talk about how you add more candidates to the top of your funnel, increase your top line, increase your revenue. Retention is all about getting more bottom line dollars out of the people that you already have. So folks that you are redeploying, folks that you want to stay with you longer, folks that you don't want to drop off, so on and so forth. And then automation talks all about operational efficiency. How can you add more time back into the recruiter's day on an every single day basis? So we'll cover a lot of this and more as we go through this presentation today. Now, I'm going to start by saying that this is what I think of when I think of staffing operations. Most staffing companies, I think, will agree with me that the candidate funnel today is very inefficient. This is representative of what we see at hundreds of our customers. If you start with about 1,000 candidates at the top of your funnel, you'd be lucky if 10% of those people, 100 of those people actually get an offer. And then of those 100 people who get an offer, you'd be lucky if 80 of them actually start their assignment. You're likely to have people drop off after getting an offer and before starting. And then of the people who do start, there are another 25% or so that will drop off before the assignments end. And of the assignments that do end, a dismally small percentage of those people actually get redeployed. This number currently is 5% on this slide, but I can tell you number of customers that we work with where this number is literally 1 to 2%. So this is where staffing companies struggle today, which is how can you make this funnel more efficient? And like I said, we'll talk a lot about that today. But on the right-hand side, you see a pie chart that actually tells you what your recruiters are doing. This is generally true for most recruiters in our industry. Only a third of their time today is spent on doing what we call human stuff, which is either talking to a candidate or talking to a customer and convincing them of working with each other. but the rest of their time is spent on keeping up the ATS, adding in data, prospecting, so on and so forth, essentially stuff that can be very easily automated. So let's talk about automation. When you think about automation in the staffing industry, it is no longer a novelty. It is absolutely table stakes. Pretty much every staffing company that we are talking to is on some level of a journey towards automating their technology stack, their operations. And automation is constantly evolving. If you think about it at a 50,000 foot level, we think of automation in two different classes. You absolutely need both of them. The first way to think about automation is what we call maintenance and data cleaning, just hygiene stuff that needs to happen automatically. How does your database stay current? How can the information of candidates stay current? How can you make sure that when people leave your company or join your company, that they're associated with the right candidate pool? And I'll talk about this in detail here in a minute. But then the second class of automation is what's event triggered. Somebody is starting today, somebody's ending, somebody's finished 1 week on their assignment, somebody just made a referral. What are some of the things that need to happen automatically that you can then do at scale, but they also feel very, very personalized? So those are two different classes of automation, and you're going to need both. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through 3 or 4 different ways you can automate your processes, your staffing company operations. And each of those, I'm going to give you 2 or 3 examples. So the first one is what we think of as database automation. This is probably the most high value thing you can do for your company today, which is essentially make your ATS the single source of truth, make your ATS the place where your recruiters go first and not last. So the first thing you can do in database automation is you can turn your ATS into a self-regenerating machine. Let me tell you what this means. There are dozens and dozens of different use cases here. First of all, you can automatically update the data in your ATS at scale. What does that mean? So let's say you have a recruiter working in your company today. The recruiter decides to leave, and this recruiter was associated with, I don't know, 200 different candidates. If you think about it, you now have 200 different records that are orphaned within your ATS. If you like, you can use automation to immediately associate them with whoever you might like. Hey, this person left, associate all these candidates with another recruiter. Or if you don't have that, you can essentially say associate all of them with a centralized email. Maybe that says the recruiting team at whatever your staffing company's name is. But essentially, none of that data turns into an orphan. The second thing that you can do is you can absolutely make sure that you can keep updating your database. So for example, you can ask 100,000 people at the same time, hey folks, are you interested in looking for a job right now? Are you open or available in the market? And people who say yes, you can immediately change their status within your applicant tracking system. You can say these people are active, everybody else is passive, so you can start treating them differently. So these are some of the examples on how you can make sure that your database is current, which means your recruiters will then try and first search in your database rather than going someplace else. And if you do that, this is typically what happens. This is a shocking statistic that we have found out from our customers. Some of the largest staffing companies in the world tell us that about 50% of the placements they make every single year come from the people who already existed in their applicant tracking system. Yet they never decrease any spend on job boards. They're still paying the same amount of money to LinkedIn's and career builders and monsters and Indeeds because recruiters are just not searching in the database. If you're able to keep your database clean and make it more hygienic, you can literally get half of your placements from people that you have already paid for. So these are some ways to think about what database automation can do for you. Now, the other thing to think about is recruitment marketing. How do you reach out to candidate pools? How do you source people? How do you turn your marketeers and your recruiters into just superhumans? So I'm going to talk about a few examples on what you can do towards recruitment marketing. So when it comes to recruitment marketing, the first thing you can do is you can nurture your database constantly. Companies who do this actually see a much higher level of placements because candidates get this feeling that, hey, you keep us on top of your mind. You're not only reaching out to us when you want something from us, you're actually building a relationship. In fact, in today's world, people expect you to meet you where they live. So some people may want you to reach them over an email, others may want a text message, others may want a chat bot or a survey, and you can do all of that using an automation platform. The other thing you can do is, just like you run marketing campaigns, you can actually segment your population. So let me talk about what that means. In the staffing industry, we often talk about silver medalists. A hiring manager had a position open, you sent 5 people to this hiring manager. This person interviewed all 5 of these candidates, picked one, but there are 2 or 3 other people that the hiring manager really liked, but they just picked somebody who they thought was slightly better. You now know that these people who we call silver medalists, they actually are really good candidates, and they will be a short placement someplace else. You definitely want to nurture them differently. You want to give a high touch engagement with all of those people. You want to make sure that those people are taken care of, and you immediately submit them to other positions. You can certainly do that. You can also segregate your audience by alumni, people who have worked with you before. There is obviously a different way of connecting with them. You certainly want to make them your promoters. You can even reach out to them and keep asking them for referrals. They worked with your company, they probably have your best interests at heart. So you can keep asking them for referrals, and maybe these people can still keep earning some money from your firm until they eventually come back. So, one, always constantly nurture your pipeline. Second, you can pair automation with AI. AI is certainly the new buzzword in the staffing industry, but there is a way to do that right. You can certainly use a chatbot, a conversational recruiting assistant. This is probably one of the best things you can do for your recruiting teams today, especially as we are coming out of the pandemic. Most of our customers tell us that today, for every position that they put out there, they're getting 3 to 4 times the number of people who are applying to these jobs, simply because people are looking for roles now. You certainly don't have 3 to 4 times the number of recruiters. So if you think about it, you certainly can use a chat bot to screen people that your recruiter should be talking to. So what a chatbot does is, anytime somebody applies, anytime somebody comes to your website, a chatbot will intercept that person and ask them exactly the questions you want to know. How many years of experience do you have? Are you authorized to work in the US? How much money do you want? Are you willing to work in this particular zip code? Are you willing to relocate? You can ask them all these questions, which every one of your recruiters is going to ask anyway. And you can screen these candidates and say, here are 5% of the people who are really good fit for our positions, and these are the people that we are going to send over to our recruiters. The second thing you can do is, you can enrich your database. You can send out a chat bot to 100,000 people or 1 million people in your database at scale and say, hey, we're reaching out to you to ask for these 3 or 4 more pieces of information so we can send you accurate jobs. This probably takes the candidate less than 30 seconds, and they will appreciate the fact that you're looking out for them. So you may want to ask them their latest zip code, if their phone number or their email has changed, when would they be available next. Just do things at scale that tells you who your targetable market is. So essentially, think about pairing automation with artificial intelligence. Thirdly, make sure that you take care of your brand. Staffing companies are very careful about this now. How do you keep increasing your Glassdoor scores, your NPS scores? Just making sure that candidates know that you are the kind of company that takes care of them. I can give you several examples here, but I've known several Sense customers that over the course of a 6-month period, by using an automation platform, actually improved their overall Glassdoor score or an overall NPS score. So I'll give you one example of a company in Seattle. When they started with an automation platform, their NPS score was in the low 20s, and 6 months later, they brought it up to the high 70s. Now, one of the reasons this happens is, you're obviously sending out net promoter score questions. Hey, would you recommend our company to somebody else? And if people give you a 9 or a 10 score, they're a promoter of your company, you immediately redirect them to social media. hey, would you mind saying this publicly on Glassdoor, Facebook, Yelp, Google, wherever your reviews live? And everybody else who was not happy with your company, you would actually send them a different message, which automation will make possible. And that message could be, so sorry to hear that, sorry you didn't have a great experience with us. A recruiter's going to call you shortly. Or click here to schedule a time with your recruiter. We want to make sure we make this right. So you can take this in any different direction, but you send all the people who are saying good things about you to social media, and everybody else, you can actually solve their problems one on one. Now, as this company's net promoter score and Glassdoor rating continued to increase, they saw a whole bunch of people who started applying to them on their website. As you know, candidates are super fickle. So they're potentially thinking, hey, this is a company that takes care of people. I'll go work through this company. They got so much inbound traffic that they were actually able to reduce their spend on job boards by about 25%. So please know that even controlling your brand has a positive impact on your P&L. The third thing I want to talk about is candidate engagement. How do you actually stay engaged with your most important product, which is your candidates? This is really your primary customer. So we'll talk about a few different things here. First of all, just have personalized workflows. You're seeing one example on the screen here, but automation can help you build hundreds of these examples. These will all be on a cadence and triggered automatically. Somebody applies for a job, you can immediately send them a message and say, welcome to our company. So glad that you want to work with us. Here is a little video message welcoming you to the firm from our CEO, or here is a little video message talking about the mission and vision statement of our company. Just make them feel like a part of the family right away. Then maybe a couple days later, you might say, here is the client we're submitting you at. Here is some more information about the client. Then you might say, here are the benefits and perks of working with our company. Then you might tell them they've got an interview. Then you might tell them, hey, your interview is tomorrow. This is where you need to show up. This is your dress code. This is the time you're supposed to reach, so on and so forth. All of these will happen automatically because automation will pick up these fields right from your applicant tracking system, right from Ceipal. So every information that is stored there, we can pick up that field and actually then send this automation out. Now, this certainly does not have to end when somebody gets an offer. You can continue doing this for the entire life cycle. So think about automating communications that are very timely, that are triggered, and they feel very, very personal. Then please use mobile. I don't need to tell any of you here, but email is starting to get, single digit response rates, whereas mobile, gets response rates that is upwards of 70%. 95% of all text messages are read within 5 minutes of you sending it to them. So if you meet your candidates where they live, which is probably a mobile phone today, you're certainly going to get much better engagement. You can certainly make that way more personalized. So today you can use a messaging platform, is as part of your automation that will be able to send out these messages one-on-one or at scale. You can send the same message to 200 people, but it would still be personalized. As you can see in this little example here, hi, candidate first name. This will automatically personalize the message to, hi, Alex, hi, Stephanie, hi, John. How did it go today at Google versus Chevron versus General Motors? So you can actually do engagement at scale. And, when you send out these 200 messages, if somebody actually responds back to you and they want to engage with you, it will automatically convert into a one-on-one message. So while you sent one bulk message, when somebody responds, it shows back to the recruiter as a one-on-one conversation that you can then proceed from there on. And of course, keep the conversation personal. Use emojis, use GIFs, use images, whatever makes it feel like it is less, it's less sort of corporatized, if you will. The other thing you can do is, and this is where you're seeing automation at play. So what you're seeing on this little visual here, on the left-hand side, your candidates that you can actually send text messages to. But while you're sending them text messages, on the right-hand side, you're able to see, because of a seamless automation platform, everything that is scheduled to be done with this candidate over the next several months. This is really, really interesting because let's say you sent somebody a text message 3 months ago. and you were going to send them a second message today, and maybe your message was going to be, hey, sorry, I haven't kept in touch, it's been a long time. Before you send that message, you can look at the automation platform right there, and the automation platform will show you that an automated message went to this person day before yesterday. And because you are the recruiter, it went from your name. So now you don't have to be sheepish about this. Now you don't have to worry about saying, sorry, I haven't kept in touch. You just reached out to this person 2 days ago. Your message can now be a lot more informed. It can be a lot more personalized. And you can essentially say, hey, I sent you something a couple of days ago, but I have another question for you today. Can we connect? So again, automation can help you keep your one-on-one communication super seamless. And then the last thing I want to talk about is when candidates actually start working for you. So they're now your employees, they're on assignment, they're contractors. How do you take care of them then? And what do you do through redeployment, which is probably one of the biggest challenges we face in the staffing industry? So first, take care of people while they're on assignment. If you do that, you will absolutely reduce your drop off rates. You will absolutely reduce your involuntary turnover rates. So somebody's working for you, start sending them open messages. Hey, how was your first day? How was your first week? How was your first month? Can you give us a referral? Can you send us a sales lead? You're working in this environment. You've probably kept your eyes and ears open. Is somebody else hiring? Stay engaged with these people. How's your commute? So if you do that, you're likely to get candid feedback from these people. I can tell you several examples where our customers will reach out to a candidate at the end of the first day and say, how was your day? And sometimes candidates will reply back and say 1 or 0 on a scale of 5, because they'll be like, hey, I reached my workplace, my email wasn't set up, my laptop wasn't set up, I was just twiddling my thumbs. Instead of this person feeling like they made a mistake and not showing up for the second day, if you catch this at the end of the first day, you can immediately jump on a phone with them, let them know that you're thankful for this information. You want to make sure that everything is set up tomorrow so you can actually rekindle their interest in this assignment. There are other people who, after the 1 week check-in, have gotten back and said, my commute is horrible. I did not realize this when I took the job, but it's taking me an hour and a half to get to work every day. Again, very good feedback to have timely. You can then go back to your hiring managers and talk to them about, is it possible this person can only come to work 1 or 2 days a week and then work from home the rest of the time, so you don't lose this extraordinary talent. So essentially, when people are on assignment, just don't let this be a black hole. This is one of the things we hear about the staffing industry all the time, that once somebody starts their assignment, we just forget about them. And then the other big thing is redeployment. I keep saying this again and again. Even the best run staffing companies in the US have redeployment rates between 3 to 5%. So imagine a company that does 10,000 placements a year. Only 300 of those people are actually going to stay back and do a subsequent assignment. Everybody else is going to leave. And companies at that scale have dozens of offices, hundreds of recruiters, and they're simply making placements just to protect their revenue, and they're not growing at all. And this is true at any stage of a company. If you're a company that has 100 contractors and your redeployment is only 5%, you're going to lose 95 of your people every year. So all your recruiters are doing is just replenishing your revenue, but you're not able to grow 30, 40%. Automation can help you solve that. First of all, automation will help you reach out to everybody 20, 30, 40 days before they're finishing their assignment. Second, they can automatically match jobs and say, hey, John, you're coming out of assignment. Here are 7 jobs we have that we think are a good fit for you. Would you like us to apply, send your submittal or application to these jobs? And then, of course, once you stay in touch with people, once people know that, hey, somebody is taking care of me, they're likely to stay with you. Once you don't communicate is when people start becoming antsy. That's when they're looking out at job boards. That's when they're looking out, at your competitors. So redeployment, certainly a big mantra, and an automation platform, for example, like Sense, would also let you track this very clearly. How many new placements are you making? How many people are getting redeployed? How many people are working with you for the first time? How many people are doing their second assignment with you, or third or greater assignment with you? So, if I were to bring this all together, what I'm trying to show in this slide is this is essentially the candidate life cycle. You start by sourcing and attracting people. You engage with the candidates, you get them a job. So now you're onboarding them and making sure you're in touch with them pre-hire, so they haven't started yet. Then you take care of them while they're on assignment, and then ultimately you either redeploy them or reactivate them. What reactivation means is obviously you're not going to be able to redeploy 100% of your people. So when people leave your company, you can still keep nurturing them, and hopefully they come back and work for you again in 6 months or maybe 6 years. But you are just always in touch with them, so they never take you off their mental radar. So what you see underneath that are four different products that you can potentially use to engage with people or automate. The first product that says engage, that is an automation journey build product that can send out information on a cadence that I talked about. Messaging is a two-way text messaging platform that's pretty straightforward. Referrals is a way for you to automatically track referrals, pay people out, make the process completely transparent, so you actually start getting more referrals. And then chatbot is a conversational AI assistant, which essentially can screen people and enrich your database. So if you think about it across your entire life cycle, there are many different things that you can do to automate them. And there are many different products that can help you do that. Obviously, we are very proud of the fact that at Sense, we have an entire suite that does all four of those things, and which is why we think of ourselves as the only engagement platform for the staffing industry and not just a point solution. And that proof is in the pudding. If you have the right solution, it will lead to real ROI. These are some of our customers who have been okay with us using their names publicly. And if you look at these customers, you can see the ROI that they're driving. Every customer seems to have a different use case. Matrix, for example, has a 25% re-engagement rate with their alumni. This is huge for them. They're actually able to get to alumni and say, hey, all of you used to work at this account, whatever it is, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. They stay in touch with them, and after their break in service period is over, they immediately bring them back and get them another job at the same client. The candidate is super happy because they already are an expert in this role. The client is super happy because they're getting somebody who already knows their processes and they don't have to retrain them. And the staffing company is pretty happy because you're probably making a better margin on these people than you would make on somebody else. Core Medical Group, they've talked about redeploying 320 people in just the last 90 days. That's 320 placements you may not have had if you weren't using an automation platform. Not to mention that they actually increased their NPS by 22 points to 78, which is a number that is almost unheard of. At healthcare support, they're reporting that candidates who use Sense are 4 times more likely to stay with you than everybody else. And then in Kelly, we've seen a 20% reduction in submittal to hire. So earlier they essentially showed a rate of 7.5 candidates to 1 who would go through submittal to hire, and that number is now down to 5.4 is to 1. And lastly, this is essentially what I wanted to end with. We are what we think is the one holistic platform of engagement. This is your talent life cycle. These are all things you can expect and you should expect from an engagement platform. Reduce your job board spend, increase your NPS scores, increase your email response rates, open rates, increase offer to start rate, and increase your redeployment. So these are some of the things that you should be expecting when you start looking at an engagement platform. And that's the reason why some of the largest staffing companies in the US across every vertical, light industrial, IT, healthcare, professional, most of these companies are over $100 million in revenue. And the ones at the top are over $1 billion in revenue use Sense today. So this is essentially what I wanted to cover with you guys today. Just talk a little bit about what companies who are at the cutting edge of thinking about automation think about today, and what are some of the things that are important to them. But I'm more than happy to take some questions.
Thank you, Pankaj, for an excellent presentation and your insights on reinvent recruiting with next generation automation. And now we begin with the Q&A. So, Pankaj, we have quite a few questions. The number one would be, what are a few guidelines or rules that we should adhere to with respect to communication?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm understanding this question correctly, you're probably talking about text messaging, or even if you're talking about emails. First of all, a platform like Sense or any automation platform that you use should absolutely support opt-ins and opt-outs. So we 100% support that. You should know that people who opt in to get your messages are the ones that you're talking to. We'll obviously give you hundreds of tips on how you can make these messages more relevant, and if messages are relevant, people will never opt out. Now, when it comes to text messages, you absolutely have to adhere to some regulations. Again, a platform like Sense is TCPA compliant, is CAN spam compliant. So you just have to make sure that the messages that you're sending are compliant. One thing to note is if a candidate applies to a job and actually sends you a resume, and that resume has this person's email and text message number in it, that is implicit consent. They're actually giving you consent to reach out to them, because offering somebody a job is not considered marketing. So you're absolutely able to reach out to those people as long as you have their resumes. And where you don't, please ask for opt-ins and opt-outs.
Right. So the next one is Sense a separate tool or can be integrated within ATS?
Sense is a separate platform which absolutely integrates with the ATS. For example, we absolutely integrate with Ceipal. So, when you think about Ceipal, which is an ATS, that will be your system of record, and Sense will be your system of engagement that will sit on top of the ATS. The ATS is the place we get all of our data from. That's how we do triggered communications. So, Sense is certainly a different platform, but it integrates bidirectionally with the ATS.
Right. And how to keep our talent pool active? How can Sense help us?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about this for hours. This is exactly what I was trying to talk in my presentation. But there are many different ways to make sure that you nurture your people effectively. Uh, Again, a platform like Sense can help you build what you call drip campaigns. So you may decide, here are 100,000 people. Here are 15 different messages that I want these people to get over the course of 2 months. You can absolutely make them super personalized. You can make sure that these messages have a cadence where no two messages are similar. And what the automation platform would help you do is you're sending all these messages to these 100,000 people. Let's say after the first message, 50 people say, well, we'd like to know more about the staffing company. This is pretty intriguing. They will immediately stop getting the rest of the messages. Now that this person has already expressed interest, they will go to a separate automation. You can take them someplace else and say, great, let's talk one on one. Everybody else will get the second message, third message, then more people engage with you, so on and so forth. We have hundreds and hundreds of templates where we can actually share information on these are the kind of messages that tend to perform well. So you're very welcome to do that.
Right. And coming to the next one, is Sense a subscription model like monthly user charges?
Sense is a subscription model. Yes, we are a SaaS platform. So you would think about that as just as you think about other subscriptions. So certainly happy to talk about pricing offline, but that's absolutely accurate.
Okay, so coming to the last one, how do you automate manual tasks with Sense?
Yeah, again, this is something I can talk about it for hours. You can literally take any manual task in your company today and automate that with Sense. It could be anything. I mean, I gave you several examples in my presentation. If you today have a process that at the end of the first day, you want to send people a message and say, how was your first day? It'll happen automatically. If you today wish happy birthday to all of your people, it'll happen automatically. It'll also happen on Saturdays and Sundays when it is people's actual birthday, which you're probably not able to do today. If you want to ask them for referrals, happens automatically. If you want to redeploy them to a new job, happens automatically. If you want to, pay them a referral fee, all of that happens automatically. So pretty much anything that you do today that does not involve talking one-on-one with a candidate or a customer, you can absolutely automate that using Sense. And I would go so far as saying that even when you are automating, even when you do have to talk one-on-one with a candidate or a customer, you can even certainly do that over a text message. People actually appreciate that, people prefer that, and your response rates are much higher.
Right. I think we're done with the Q&A. You can probably stop sharing your presentation, Pankaj.
Okay, let's do that.
So, yes, we are end to the session. It was great having you, Pankaj, and thank you for making the session interesting and meaningful.
Absolutely. No, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone who took the time to listen today. I appreciate it.